Welcome everyone to this session on innovation in healthcare, politics and education. I'm told that we're currently competing with a Czech beer tasting session somewhere downstairs, so well done for choosing this one. My name is Ingrid Silva. I'm a partner at Dentons. Dentons is a law firm, which makes me a lawyer, but I'm still a nice person, really. And the reason I'm on this stage is because I have a background in media law going back almost 20 years now, and a lot of the work I do these days is focused on innovation-driven companies across a huge range of sectors. And I have to tell you, I took huge comfort this morning from hearing Kim.com say that he was going to be advising his kids not to start up cloud storage businesses, but to all become lawyers. So I know I'm on track. We have a fantastic panel lined up here. We have a doctor. In fact, we have a double doctor here, medicine, PhD, and MBA. A lord and an entrepreneur who tells me that before being an entrepreneur, he was a big cheese in the Israeli army. So this is a heavyweight panel that we won't want to be messing with, and some serious brain power. Before I ask the panel to introduce themselves a little bit more, we just have a short movie which we're hopefully going to run to set the scene for the session. Okay, so let's kick off by just asking all of you to spend a minute, no more, telling us a bit about the world you're living in at the moment and I guess your perspective on innovation in your particular environment. So let's start with you, Charlene.
I'm Dr. Charlene Beluzzo, and I primarily reside in San Francisco, California, but I'm a part owner in a company based in New Zealand, and have spent much of my career living and working in Northeast Africa. My career spanned clinical medicine and pharmaceutical research and global health, but I have been married for much of my life to a high-tech executive on the edge of tech development through some very exciting and innovative years, and so I had the opportunity to bridge health and technology throughout my career in various settings, including the developing world, and I hope we touch on a few of those things as we speak today.
Thank you. Lily.
Hi, I'm Lily Chen. I come from Singapore. I work at the National University of Singapore, and my job involves how do I get young people excited about innovation, excited about startups in a conservative environment like Singapore. And today we have quite an interesting setup at the university where there are more than 200 startups around the community.
My name is Jim Knight. I work for TES Global, which has the largest community of teachers in the world, 6.5 million teachers, and I'm building an online professional development business for them right now, and I hope that's innovative. I also am deputy chair of the Nominate Trust, which is one of the largest investors in social tech here in the UK, so I see lots of innovation there. And I chair the largest digital inclusion delivery organization here in the UK, where we're trying to be innovative to get people online. And then finally, I'm still a politician in the House of Lords, where I see very little innovation at all, not just in the House of Lords, but in the world of politics, full stop. It's very depressing.
My name is Jonathan. I'm originally from Israel. Nearly 2 years ago, I took a flight from Tel Aviv to London to start Kano with my two co-founders. It's great to be here on the panel. And we basically, we saw that there are 3 billion people almost connected to the internet, nearly 9 billion computing devices globally. We're spending billions of dollars every day, every year on education. But when we sat down with a 6-year-old and asked him, when he see a printed circuit board, what does he want to do with it? Then he said, I'd like to build my own computer, but it has to be as simple and fun as Lego. So fast forward, a year later, we did a $1.5 million Kickstarter campaign, and fast forward another 10 months, in the last 60 days, we've shipped nearly 25,000 of these computer kits to 86 countries, just trying to enable a whole new generation to make, learn, and play with technology instead of just consuming it.
It's very cool.
Thank you.
It is cool, and we are going to come back to Jonathan in a little while because I want to talk a bit more about Kano. But first I'd like Charlene, to tell us a little bit about, you're very immersed in this health world, and you've gone through a long period of, several decades of observing developments. Tell us about some of the really cool things that you're seeing out there at the moment.
So there are a lot of really cool things. So to answer that, I think I'll need to confine my answer to those things that I've actually engaged with and that I can speak to from my personal perspective. First of all, by 2016, in healthcare and wellness, the market is estimated to be at least $2.9 billion. And in the area of wearable technology, 50% or greater will be health-related or wellness-related. And so when you're looking at technical innovation, this is a hot spot to be. Up on the screen, you'll see the first piece that I'd like to talk about. And this is Samsung's Slim Band. You probably have heard about this. I chose this one to share with you particularly because in all of the examples I've given, there are collaborations that bridge academics, big business, and innovative entrepreneurship. In this case, Samsung, well-known, very, very wealthy company, has come up with a hugely innovative technology that, with this band, can monitor heart rate, blood pressure, pulse, your body mass index, even your stress level by measuring the electricity conductivity across your skin. And they have done that in cooperation with the University of California, San Francisco. And they put out this summer, maybe some of you are aware of, a fund for $50 million to innovation entrepreneurs to create, support, co-products, anything that has some impact in building out this particular technology. And so that's an invitation to all of you. Their VP of Innovation, their chief scientist, is Ram Fish, and he's heading this program of this 50 million fund. And so it might be something that you might want to take note of. The next, this one is AIQ Smartwear. And what is so fantastic about this type of innovation is it's doing body monitoring through the fabric itself. And the two classifications that I wanted to tell you why I think that they're important and really cool is, first of all, there is something that is monitored or diagnosed, and then also there's a way that information is shared and is made actionable. You can collect a lot of information, but if you haven't got something you can do with that information, it's really not that valuable. And so putting the technology into the fabric, it's sensors for monitoring. They have a tire that creates light for safety, that generates heat for comfort and protection. And also they have an anti-radiation element that they put into fabric that can be protection for pregnancy and things like that. So there's some really interesting things that are happening there.
Charlene, I don't want to cut you off.
Oh, yeah.
I want to make sure we get a chance to sort of cover all these things. But
then I better go a lot quicker.
Okay, well, what I was going to say is maybe just to sort of jump in for a second. I'm sure lots of people have come across some really candidly mind-blowing applications that are out there, although looking at them, they seem to be generating a lot more information than I care to know about myself.
Yes.
But on this point of, okay, there's a contact lens, great. You've got a contact lens up. Well, I was going to say that this all involves collaborations and lots of parties generating information about people. So tell me a bit about that. And I know that your own business looks at information. So I wonder if you could spend a minute or so talking about what your company does and how that sort of plays out.
Could we go one more slide, I believe? This is part of it. Let's go one more, and I'll quickly address what she's speaking of. In my own company, Dr. Info, based in New Zealand, the technology is such that we just access patients' information wherever it resides in real time. So it's not collected or stored or downloaded. If the patient themselves has a smartphone, an Android or an iPhone, that they can access connectivity to the internet, then in our system, particularly in New Zealand, because it is a national health system, then there is an agent that resides on each bit of information currently, and that our technology, our software, can communicate with that, and a patient themselves could, wherever they are, present with their own permission a view of all of their health information, all their pharmaceuticals, their dental, their GP records, their specialist records. It's a way of they controlling their own data in real time without, and sharing it without it being downloaded. It does not involve cloud because there's no storage. The permission comes directly from the patient at the point of sharing or the point of service. They can also give a physician the permission to access their records to treat them in an emergency department or in an ambulance.
So this
like
is the
that.
functionality, which means that the individual can at any point in time pull together all the information about them that has ever existed, medically speaking, and give permission to whoever they choose to access that information.
But
Is
the
that right?
patient has the responsibility of making that consent, just as
The
if you were in
responsibility.
any other type of medicine.
Okay, so that's an interesting word, responsibility. So the patient, who owns the information here?
So that is where one of the biggest debates occur.
Okay.
And many physicians feel like they own your data. In the way that we pose it, they might have collected that data and they own the record where it resides, but the patient, for their general well-being, and this has been established in New Zealand over the course of the few years that we've been doing this, that the patient actually is the one that gives permission for their records to be accessed and used. And that patient also has the ability to say what part of their record can be accessed.
Jim, I can see you nodding here. What's your reaction to this?
Well, that's really crucial. You know, there's a danger in wonderful events like this that we're kind of all evangelists for tech. And yet, the vast majority of people, they see globalization and technological change happening, and they see some people getting very rich, but it doesn't affect them. And I think there's a growing distrust. And you know, I saw someone writing about a blog that was taken down by a head of Uber, actually, where he'd written about how they can spot the philanderers amongst us who, based on when they were using Uber. So those people who were double dipping into Uber, so they would go from a party to somewhere, and then they'd be taken back to the same place at a certain time of night. They were kind of knew what they were up to. And people spot that, you know, and they seem way more trusting of commercial organizations to let them have their data than governments, because obviously governments are run by politicians and they don't trust the politicians that they put there. And I kind of get that. But that whole sense of distrust, I think, is growing. And I think personal control of the personal data is quite an important principle. And Dr. Info are delivering on that in a way that I think shows us much more about the direction of travel we need to go on.
Well, that's interesting. For now, they are delivering on that until someone, say, hacks into it, because this is all about the technology and the protections working. So you've just said there's a distrust of government controlling data, but a trust of corporates controlling.
Well, there's more of a trust. I'm not saying that there's a trust necessarily. I guess I think, you know, when
and I guess
all the times that Apple update their terms and conditions and they ask me to agree it again and I can't be bothered to read it, I know I'm kind of in league with the devil, but I kind of know that I'm still getting a good service and all.
So there's a transactional
it's
value
kind of worth
there.
it.
Could I speak to
And I've
what
thought
happened?
about it.
Right.
But I think people's thinking about government services is slightly different, because in the end, that distrust that's across the Western world, certainly, in their democratically elected politicians, is so embedded now, it's so ingrained, because voting doesn't appear to change anything,
Right.
that we have a problem.
So who doesn't trust their government to handle their data? Show of hands. Yeah, you're pretty much right on that. Who doesn't mind corporates like Apple having access to their data and controlling it? Who doesn't mind that?
They already have them.
See, not so keen on corporates either. Who thinks the regulator has a role to play in all of this. Can regulation really address the problem and give you the security?
Yeah, is it regulation or personal responsibility? You could argue that I should just read the bloody terms and conditions, but...
Charlene, you wanted to say something before.
Well, particularly toward regulation, particularly in healthcare and privacy, regulation has come about reactionary. That innovation occurs even long before technology innovation occurs in any process that we have. It's based on what has happened in the past, and regulation then is applied. Well, where technology is happening so fast in healthcare, we really don't know what the risks and what the dangers may be and what harm there may be in collecting this big data from personal devices, from devices that interact with healthcare in the patient's hands, or if it's in healthcare in general that is collecting data on us as it's running tests on us while we're under anesthesia. All of those bits of information we've not had to deal with in the past. So the only way that we can address these privacy issues is what has been established in the paper and pen world, and then to project how that might look in the digital world and to model what might be the risks and then pose regulation upon it. And that's exactly what's happened. But I do want to illuminate briefly that the biggest risk for healthcare information was really in a handwritten file stuck in a doctor's file cabinet or in their drawer, being faxed or mailed to patients and referring physicians. They might get dropped on the floor from the fax machine. There could be someone coming through the office.
So
for
the
any
takeaway
reason.
there is that
the
actually
safety is more safe in technology, and because there is an engagement trail, there is a trail, a digital trail that shows every interaction with that information, and it's almost impossible to erase.
So the takeaway is that we're actually in a much safer, more secure world where our privacy is protected, and that all this innovation, because there is a trail and it is electronically stored, is a bonus, let's just say. I want to switch gears now. Jonathan, let's talk about education and Kano. Tell us a bit more about Kano and what it does and what's the philosophy behind it in a minute.
Yeah, well, essentially, it's a computer that you build and code yourself. It takes anyone as early as a 6-year-old in a process of assembling their own computer. It turned out to be something like that. It comes in a kit. It comes with an operating system that anyone with no previous background can actually start and boot up through the command line in a very fun experience, and with different projects, learning to code, making stuff. So essentially, a 7-year-old in about an hour can assemble his first computer and start coding very, very simple things, but the notion is that you become once again a creator rather than a consumer. It's about making it simple, powerful, and fun, and inspiring a whole new generation that, at best, they can flip a page on an iPad or play a game.
So you're putting this toy, I guess, is...
It's not a toy, it's a computer.
I'm sorry. It's a toy computer in the hands of kids and just leaving them to kind of see where it takes them.
Yeah, well, I think, in the past 40 years, there've been a lot of research, and I think there's a great Indian professor, Sugata Mitra, based in Newcastle University, that have done a research called A Hole in a Wall. He literally put a computer with a keyboard in very remote villages in India, and he allowed them to basically hack the web. And in 2 months, 3 months, they've learned English better than kids that learn English in about 4 or 5 years. But I think the most interesting, and I'm not just being rude, I'm just trying to open this and show something. Yesterday on Twitter, there was a photo, a flyer that was released by Lego 40 years ago to parents. And I just want to read it. It's really short. To parents, the urge to create is equally strong in all children, boys and girls. It's imagination that counts, not skill. You build whatever comes into your head the way you want it, a bed or a truck, a doll's house or a spaceship. A lot of boys like doll's houses. They're more human than spaceships. A lot of girls prefer spaceships. They're more exciting than doll houses. The most important thing is to put the right material in their hands and let them create whatever appeals to them. And nothing has changed since then. We're giving magical devices, and I think companies like Kano and many other around the world it's really about putting new type of toolboxes in the hands of anyone, anywhere, at any gender, any place in the world, and just let them create.
So Lily, you work
Yeah.
in an educational institution. Listening to Jonathan, what's your reaction?
Well, I think this is really great. This is really cool. I mean, at the university, we're asked, can you make entrepreneurs out of, university students? And yes, we've done it quite successfully in the last, I would say, five years or so. But really, the process starts at the school age. When they come, I tell our politicians and agencies who fund us, and I hope they're not here, I said, well, you want us to change the mindset. Once they enter the university, it's a done deal in an Asian culture.
So we basically need to start working with kids now if we
That's
want
right.
innovation to enter our
That's right.
traditional institutions.
That's right. So our
in 20 years.
our education system has to go down to the primary school level and the secondary school level and get them excited. Because once they come to the university, I want to be a doctor, I want to be a lawyer, it's a done
Not
deal.
that bad.
It's a done deal.
I want to open this up to the floor. I have a number of questions myself still, but who has any questions at this point? Can we get a microphone to the front here?
Is it on? Yes. I feel like I should make a joke when I'm doing that. Is this on? My name is Angelique Mooring, and I have a UK and Canadian-based company. I help big companies manage and measure innovation, and I mentor in a lot of places around the world with small companies. And I think there's a lot to be said as a small company to partner with both academic institutions as well as the government, and to look at bringing those into your small ecosystems when you're trying to work with big businesses, B2B, and building that partnership for long-term sustainable growth. So with what you're doing, what a great opportunity to bring that academics into it to continue to advance the research. Do you have advice, because I love that you're right across the board here, do you have advice for when a company should start building those partnerships and what some of those milestones might look like?
Well, it's
You go ahead.
No. I mean, I was just going to say that I simply don't know how to answer. We're less than a 2-year-old company, but I think what we've done early on, even before we had a product, we started conversations with big companies and kind of not just to build the pipeline, but build a network, hear feedback. And I think one thing that is great about big corporates is that they're out there with thousands of employees, and they really know what's going on. The fact that they not necessarily do anything good about it, that's a different question, but they definitely have access to information that is valuable to small businesses.
My advice would be to be very conscious of the cultural difference between the academic and the commercially driven people. So the strength of working with academics is that they are perfectionists who are not driven by time and money, they're driven by perfection. The weakness of working with academics is that they are not driven by time and money, they're driven by perfection. You just kind of have to deal with that, and you have to know how you're going to manage that and how you're going to work with them to meet some of your time and some of your constraints, and still grab the perfection that they're capable of helping you achieve.
And part of that is in the way that you structure your agreements to work together, because being on both sides, being in the startup company and then also being an academic, I know academics like to have lots of space to think and to develop, and they develop too big and too much and too long, whereas if the agreement is written that what you need is stimulus from or resources or research validation or those types of metrics, even time dating from universities, if you can get the pieces that you want spelled out in agreement, they can go about their academic process for a very long time, and you can extract the pieces that are useful to you in real time and apply them to your business in a very productive way.
I would look at it in a slightly different way. We recently worked with one of the transport companies in Singapore where they posed data and challenges and problems that they're having. And they came to the university, and we grouped together about 200 students, undergraduates, and posed these problems and challenges to them So it's like a hackathon, essentially. So over the weekend, because these are their customers, because these are the young people who use the public transportation system. And they came up with several very interesting ideas how they can solve some of the challenges. So I think it doesn't matter when it gets started, you just need to get started even when
So what
you're
I'm
young.
hearing here is sort of cultural awareness of the organizations that are interacting, expectation management in the form of, you know, making it very clear who's doing what where, and ongoing communication at every stage. Any other questions at this point? No? Well, I have a question, I guess. This is a session about innovation across healthcare, education, politics, established institutions. As an innovator, how do you overcome the fact that the people within these institutions are heavily invested in those institutions, and therefore, why would they want it to change? How do you motivate and drive change within those organizations and displace those interests?
My answer to that would be to say now is a unique time to force that change through, because certainly in the sort of Western world, the model which was forged in the immediate post-war period, in this country, for example, of the welfare state, is unsustainable given demographic change. And so we're seeing, through this period of austerity, it's sort of permanent austerity, because we can't afford to carry on delivering services the way we currently do them. So change now is non-negotiable. It's really hard for those vested interests in the civil service, in departments, in the producer interest, if you like, to embrace the change. But if you can grab the attention of the finance minister in any country and show them you can do more for less using technology smartly and properly engaging consumers as the co-producers of the service, they will listen, because that will deliver what they really are worried about, which is how the hell am I going to carry on delivering at the standard, but at less cost? Because that's the bit of magic that finance ministers have to grapple.
That's interesting. That's the second time in 2 panels we've heard magic. So the magic here is about delivering efficiencies as well as engagement of the individuals who are going to be affected by the innovation?
I think efficiencies are a distraction, because, and treasuries like the word efficiency,
right?
Because they kind of see technology as being something that makes existing practice more efficient. The opportunity now is new practice, embedding ways of doing things that were previously inconceivable, because we now have very powerful computers in our hands and because we can share and do things and co-produce services. That's an opportunity which we've never had before, and let's grasp it.
And the disruption occurred because of the constraints of the changing society. But I have to always believe in human ingenuity. Even in the refugee camps, in the most desperate of situations, people have bright ideas and they think of things. It's leadership that is open and willing to notice that somebody had a really brilliant, bright idea and to champion them. And so if there is a way, and it's a challenge, to bring about leadership openness, and I don't have the answer to that, but I think it's a worthy goal, because there are smart people, bright children, shining stars all around us, and these ideas pop up, and sometimes they just need the backing.
The screen in front of us is flashing madly, so I am going to bring this session to an end. Thank you very much to all of you who attended, and now please join me in thanking our panelists in the traditional way.
Thank you.
Let's have a big loud cheer. Thank you very much.